Imagine a place so remote, so frozen, that even the sun seems afraid to linger. Now imagine that somewhere beneath the ice and rock, there exists a network of missile silos the world was told had been decommissioned decades ago. Yet, every indicator, every sensor, every piece of monitoring equipment tells a different story. Some show power flowing, lights blinking, and machinery operating as if it had never been abandoned. How can a facility officially dismantled in the late 1970s still hum with life in the middle of the Arctic? How can weapons capable of global destruction remain quietly active, hidden under miles of ice and secrecy? This is not a story that appears on public records. It is a story that exists in fragments, whispers, and anomalies, and it begins here, in the far reaches of Alaska's frozen expanse. The Alaska Defense Grid was one of the most secretive undertakings of the Cold War. At the height of US-Soviet tensions, planners believed that the Arctic could become the front line of a nuclear exchange, a corridor of destruction the world could not afford to leave unmonitored. Dozens of silos, radar stations, and underground bunkers were built, mapped, and connected through highly classified communication lines. Yet most of these sites were officially decommissioned after the 1970s, or so the public was told. Reports from satellite scans, declassified engineering logs, and testimonies from retired military personnel hint at anomalies. Power readings where there should be none, lights blinking in the dead of winter, and radar systems reporting activity despite decades of abandonment. If these silos were truly shut down, why do decades-old power meters still register activity? And who, if anyone, is controlling them now? The Arctic isolation and its effect. Alaska's Arctic environment is one of the harshest in the world. Temperatures routinely drop below -40 degrees Celsius, ice sheets cover miles of tundra, and winter storms can last weeks. For a missile silo or radar station to operate in such a place requires constant maintenance, or something far stranger. Former military engineers who once worked at these sites described the isolation in chilling detail. No supply lines for months, extreme cold compromising electronics, and communication blackouts that could last days. Yet power indicators in the supposedly abandoned silos suggest continuous operation. How can electrical systems function in extreme Arctic conditions without human intervention for decades? The silos the world forgot. The grid itself consisted of multiple layers. Missile silos, concealed deep beneath the permafrost, armed and connected to a command chain. Radar stations, monitoring airspace and potential Soviet incursions across the polar corridor. Communication bunkers, underground centers capable of surviving nuclear strikes, designed to maintain operational control. Some of these silos were reportedly equipped with self-diagnostic and backup power systems, but nothing in the design manual suggested they could run unsupervised for 40+ years. Could it be that these silos were automated far beyond what we've been told? Or is there a shadow program still running, hidden from the world? Eyewitness reports and anomalies. Scattered testimonies from retired personnel reveal unnerving encounters. A former NORAD engineer claims to have seen lights flashing inside a silo during a routine flyover in 1986, 5 years after official shutdown. Radar logs, partially declassified, show objects moving near the grid at odd hours. Not aircraft, not weather balloons, nothing known to air traffic control. Maintenance reports mysteriously vanish or contradict each other, suggesting that either someone tampered with the records or parts of the grid were never meant to be fully abandoned. The deeper you dig, the more inconsistencies appear. Official documents insist the silos are dormant, yet eyewitness accounts, power readings, and satellite imagery tell a completely different story. Is this a glitch in the records? Or proof that the Cold War never really ended in Alaska? Environmental and technical mysteries. The Arctic itself seems to play a role in these anomalies. Storms, auroras, and magnetic fluctuations often interfere with equipment, yet the silos continue to register activity, almost as if the environment cannot disrupt them. Some technicians claim they've recorded unexplained low-frequency hums that persist even when generators are offline. Could these silos somehow draw energy from the environment? Or is there a backup system so sophisticated it remains invisible even to engineers? If technology alone cannot explain it, could human intervention still be happening, secretly, in these frozen deserts? Teasing the next part. This first layer of the Alaska defense grid is only the beginning. The anomalies uncovered here are just hints of a much larger and more complex network buried beneath the ice. Hidden tunnels connecting silos' radar stations that should be offline, yet still send signals. Logs that suggest someone, somewhere, is still monitoring. In the next part, we'll explore the silos that shouldn't exist at all. Facilities so secret that even declassified files make no mention of them. And inside, recordings exist that may be the final testament of the men who first walked into these Arctic bunkers and never returned. What secrets are buried beneath the ice, and who is keeping them alive? They say every decommissioned site leaves a trace, some faint signature of life or decay. But some places in Alaska leave traces that shouldn't exist at all. Months after the official shutdown of the Arctic defense grid, reconnaissance flights began detecting anomalies, structures appearing on satellite scans that weren't supposed to be there. Radar returns in the middle of nowhere, lights flickering beneath the snow, and thermal signatures in silos officially declared inactive. The paradox was impossible. The silos were catalogued as dismantled, yet they were sending signals, radiating energy, and in some cases, opening and closing doors. Former engineers and officers who worked in the region refused to speak on the record, but the few who did mentioned systems that seemed to anticipate human presence. One officer described approaching a silo where the entry hatch opened before he was within 50 meters. It felt like it was waiting for someone, he said. Could automation have reached that level in the 1970s? Or was someone secretly maintaining the site decades after it was abandoned? The questions were endless and answers nearly impossible. Maps recovered from partial declassification showed dozens of bunkers connected by tunnels beneath the ice. Some tunnels were clearly designed for routine maintenance, others far larger and reinforced, almost as if meant to move machinery or personnel undetected. But what truly defied explanation was that some tunnels appeared to have been expanded after the base was officially closed. Satellite imaging indicated excavation activity in areas with no recorded operations, as if the grid itself had a hidden life of its own. Military historians have long debated the purpose of these silos. Official narratives claim they were intended purely for missile storage and defense readiness. But patterns of construction, depth of tunnels, and the configuration of power grids suggest a dual purpose: surveillance, experimentation, or something far more secretive. Some radar stations were aligned not just to detect air incursions, but possibly to track internal movements, even within the silos themselves. How could a site designed for missile readiness double as a clandestine observation facility without leaving an official record? The anomalies were not limited to physical traces. In 1983, a logging team in the region reported faint but intelligible signals on old military frequencies that should have been silent for years. The signals consisted of repeated numerical sequences, sometimes interrupted by garbled voices. No known training exercise or exercise code matched the pattern. Some researchers believe these were test transmissions, a fail-safe procedure designed to ensure the silos remained functional. Others suggest something far stranger, a hidden entity within the defense grid itself, maintaining operations autonomously. Interviews with surviving personnel reveal a mixture of fear and awe. One former radar technician described an instance where sensors detected a figure moving deep inside a silo, but cameras showed nothing. Another recalled equipment turning on at night, systems that had been powered down months prior. He wrote off the first few incidents as glitches, until a colleague went missing during a routine inspection. The official explanation was lost in transit, yet the logbooks contained gaps during the exact hours he disappeared. Could there have been someone, or something, guiding the systems, ensuring the grid remained operational without oversight? Maps and schematics hint at connections beyond Alaska itself. Communications relays point towards satellite uplinks and subarctic relay stations. If these silos were truly active, the network extended far beyond their isolated locations. Some experts believe the system was built to survive not just abandonment, but even catastrophic events. Automated power systems, redundancy loops, and hidden caches of spare parts suggest that whoever designed this grid anticipated long-term isolation. The unsettling thought emerges. These silos could theoretically continue to function indefinitely, far beyond the memory of the people who once ran them. There were also strange environmental interactions. Magnetic anomalies near certain silos disrupted standard equipment, causing compasses to spin and radios to falter. One ex-commander noted, "It's like the ice itself was part of the circuit, conducting, amplifying, almost aware." Could natural phenomena explain everything? Or was the grid designed to interact with the Arctic environment in ways that remain classified? Every answer led to more questions, and every discovery pointed toward a deliberate concealment of the truth. Whistleblowers alleged that some silos were equipped with what they called a continuity protocol, an automated system to maintain readiness even after personnel left. These protocols were supposed to last weeks, maybe months, but anomalies persisted for decades. Maintenance logs vanish or contradict other records. Power systems report activity, but no team was officially assigned. A site declared dead was very much alive, monitored by someone, something, or a system we may never fully understand. In the northernmost regions of the grid, explorers found evidence of recent excavation, new tunnels, compacted snow indicating human or mechanical movement, and footprints leading into hatches that had supposedly been sealed for years. How could this happen without detection? Were these secret teams operating continuously under the radar? Or is the system operating autonomously in ways that defy conventional engineering logic? And then there were the signals, intermittent, irregular, sometimes human-like in tone. Recovered tapes captured sequences that some analysts insist were code. Others dismissed them as radio interference, but the pattern persisted over months. A partially declassified internal memo mentions anomalous communications activity within silos 12 through 17, with no assigned operators. Could these have been test runs, or were they a remnant of a Cold War contingency plan that never ended? As night falls over the Arctic, the thought that these silos may still function creates an uneasy tension. Systems designed to respond in minutes, ready for nuclear activation, quietly waiting under layers of ice and secrecy. Could any of the reports be wrong? Could decades of speculation, satellite imaging anomalies, and first-hand accounts be misinterpretations? Or is the truth even stranger? That the Cold War never truly ended in these remote regions. The deeper one digs, the more questions arise. Why do some tunnels extend far beyond mapped parameters? Who maintains the unseen grid? And most pressing of all, if these silos were ever fully activated today, what remains beneath the frozen landscape could still be capable of launching a response no one expects. In the next part, we will enter the tunnels themselves, exploring the inner chambers of the silos that should not exist. We will examine recovered logs, testimonies, and the first-hand accounts of personnel who dared to venture inside. The truth inside these chambers may reveal more than just machinery and metal. It may reveal a system built to operate beyond human knowledge, a network designed to outlive its creators. What will we find when we peer inside the Arctic grid? And how deep does the Cold War legacy truly extend beneath the ice? The Arctic grid was no longer just a collection of decommissioned silos. It had become something far more unsettling, a network that seemed alive, responding, moving, and communicating in ways that no human should be able to control. Reconnaissance reports now included accounts of faint signals picked up intermittently on old military frequencies. They were sequences of numbers, fragments of voices and coded bursts that no training manual could explain. Some engineers insisted it was interference, yet the patterns repeated with eerie precision, as if someone or something was actively maintaining the system. The first recorded disappearance occurred in 1984. A lone maintenance engineer, assigned to inspect the perimeter of what was supposed to be an inactive silo, vanished without a trace. The official report cited severe weather conditions and assumed hypothermia, yet his backpack and tools were found neatly arranged near the silo entrance. No footprints led away from the area except those of the engineer himself. His disappearance became a whispered story among the few who had worked in the region. Could a facility officially decommissioned claim life decades after it should have been abandoned? Satellite imagery provided further contradictions. Heat signatures indicated movement inside silos that had been sealed for over a decade. Snowdrifts around hatches appeared disturbed, sometimes in straight, deliberate lines that suggested human or mechanical transit. Even more disturbing, some of these signs were detected during the dead of winter when temperatures would make any prolonged human exposure nearly impossible. Could automated systems be moving through the tunnels? Or were there unknown personnel operating in complete secrecy? Among recovered communications, several logs hint at the presence of ghost signals. In one instance, a partially declassified document notes, "Radar picks up presence at coordinates X12. No authorized personnel on record. Signal persists intermittently. Unknown origin." Subsequent investigations found that no one was scheduled at X12 for years. Yet devices continued to report activity. Was this a leftover automated system, or had someone designed the grid to operate independently of human control? Ex-military personnel describe another layer of mystery. Faint human voices that appeared on communication channels, messages so garbled they were almost unintelligible, yet occasionally clear enough to recognize orders, names, or coordinates. Many dismissed the phenomena as audio artifacts or mental fatigue caused by Arctic isolation. Yet multiple personnel reported hearing the same voices across different stations and shifts, leading some to suspect a far-reaching monitoring system had been left operational beyond official oversight. In one particularly chilling account, a NORAD officer recalled checking a silo after reports of anomalous power readings. When he arrived, the internal lights were fully operational, and a control panel indicated multiple systems running. Yet the building was supposed to have been unpowered for more than 10 years. He recorded the panel readings and left the site, but weeks later, those same readings appeared on satellite telemetry. How could the data appear remotely if no one was physically present? The paradox was undeniable. The grid was functioning, whether anyone wanted it to or not. Reports also hint at cryptic entries in old logbooks. One such log, partially recovered from the northernmost silos, contained a single line repeated over several months. They watch. They wait. We are not alone. The meaning remains unknown, but analysts speculate it refers to automated observation protocols or an experimental AI-like system that managed parts of the Arctic grid. How far did the designers anticipate leaving the silos to function without human operators? And what was the purpose of these messages? Adding to the mystery, there are accounts of missing personnel. One patrol team sent to inspect a series of underground tunnels never returned. Subsequent investigations found only footprints leading into the snow-covered entrances. No exits. The tunnels themselves showed signs of structural reinforcement, as if anticipating prolonged occupation, yet all official records insist the bases had been fully decommissioned. Could these tunnels have been designed as self-sustaining observation posts? Or had they become autonomous, a ghost network that operated beyond human oversight? Environmental anomalies compounded the mystery. Arctic storms occasionally created magnetic disturbances, strong enough to disrupt conventional instrumentation. Yet the silos' own systems seemed unaffected. In some areas, temperature readings were inexplicably stable, even as blizzards raged outside. Could the silos have been engineered to harness environmental energy? Or was there a power source still active, hidden from view? No declassified documents provide an answer. As investigators examined the network, they discovered that some tunnels led to chambers that were never mapped. These hidden rooms contained control panels, equipment, and supplies that had not been touched since their construction, except for signs of recent activity. Snow inside the rooms was compacted, footprints aligned in impossible ways, and occasionally discarded tools were found arranged in neat rows. How could this be explained? Were remnants of the original teams maintaining the grid secretly? Or was there an entirely unknown operation that continued in silence for decades? The signals grew stranger over time. In one case, a remote monitoring station recorded a burst of activity consisting of both radar blips and voice fragments simultaneously. But the recorded voices did not correspond to any known operator. Some analysts propose it may have been an automated warning system activated by unknown triggers. Others suggest the possibility of a concealed surveillance program that remained active after the Cold War ended. Either explanation challenges conventional understanding of military infrastructure. Finally, there is the human element, the psychological weight of working near silos that may be haunted not by spirits, but by the echoes of decisions and actions from decades prior. Technicians, engineers, and officers reported feeling observed, watched by systems that should have been offline. Some claimed to hear footsteps, doors opening, or machinery starting on its own. Every time an anomaly was recorded, the question persisted. Could the grid itself have a form of awareness, designed to anticipate intrusions and maintain control without human supervision? The more pieces of the puzzle surfaced, the more unsettling the Arctic grid became. It was not simply a forgotten Cold War relic. It was a living, breathing system, paradoxically dormant yet operational, existing outside the scope of official knowledge. How could a network of silos, tunnels, and radar stations operate for decades without clear human intervention? And if it could, who or what maintained it? Ongoing, we will descend into the tunnels themselves, exploring the inner chambers of silos that should not exist. We will encounter the first-hand accounts of personnel who dared to venture inside, the recovered logs that document their movements, and the anomalies that challenge every conventional understanding of Cold War engineering. What awaits in the frozen darkness may redefine everything we thought we knew about the Arctic defense grid, and the line between active operations and abandoned infrastructure may prove thinner than anyone dared to imagine. The Arctic grid was no longer just a relic. It had become a paradox of Cold War engineering. Silos officially decommissioned decades ago were still alive in ways that defied explanation. Satellite imagery, heat readings, and faint signals all suggested activity where none should exist. And now, as investigators began to descend into the tunnels themselves, a deeper layer of secrecy revealed itself. A system designed not merely to survive, but to continue operating autonomously, potentially indefinitely. Inside the northernmost silos, researchers discovered control panels and machinery still functional despite years of supposed abandonment. Lights flickered in response to movement. Power meters registered fluctuating readings, and communications panels emitted bursts of coded signals. The paradox was overwhelming. The infrastructure was active, but no operators were recorded for decades. Some of the equipment appeared to be following procedures that had been programmed during the Cold War, yet these procedures continued without oversight. How could a system maintain operational integrity for decades without human maintenance? The tunnels themselves told a story. Reinforced with steel and concrete, some of the passages were large enough to transport heavy machinery. Evidence suggested that at some point, teams had moved equipment through these corridors long after official shutdowns. Snow inside certain chambers had been compacted, footprints were aligned with purpose, and discarded tools were found neatly arranged, as if someone had been maintaining the facilities in secret. Could there have been hidden personnel working beneath the Arctic ice all these years? Or was the network so sophisticated that it functioned autonomously, monitoring and repairing itself? Logs recovered from the control centers added an unsettling dimension. One series of entries recorded environmental readings with exact timestamps, despite the supposed absence of any operators. Another contained cryptic notes. System stable. Observation ongoing. Human presence not required. Were these entries the work of automated programs? Or did someone, somewhere, continue to observe the grid in silence, maintaining its operations without leaving a trace? The anomalies extended beyond the physical infrastructure. Some radar stations picked up signals that could not be attributed to aircraft, drones, or natural phenomena. Repeated bursts of shortwave communications appeared to interact with the grid's own systems, a feedback loop that persisted even when no human operators were present. Was this a contingency program designed to operate independently if the Arctic grid were ever abandoned? And if so, why would such a system continue to function for decades, long after the Cold War ended? Inside the silos, investigators noticed subtle but deliberate changes. Panels that had been in one configuration now displayed new readings. Doors that should have remained sealed were slightly ajar, and environmental sensors recorded fluctuations in temperature and pressure. These shifts suggested recent activity, yet no evidence indicated who or what had caused them. Could the grid be reacting to intrusions, natural environmental changes, or something entirely unknown? Personnel who had previously served in the Arctic reported similar experiences. One ex-commander recounted hearing faint machinery start up in a silo that was officially offline. Another technician described strange, low-frequency hums present even when generators were off. The pervasive question was unavoidable. Could these facilities be operating on an unseen intelligence designed to maintain readiness regardless of human presence? Investigators also noted anomalies in communication patterns. Some transmissions appeared to respond to events in real time, yet no operator logs existed. One intercepted message consisted of a string of codes and numbers, followed by a fragmented human voice giving instructions. But no one was listed as present at the station. Was this a remnant of Cold War contingency planning? An automated protocol designed to maintain control over critical systems? Or had the Arctic grid evolved into something beyond its original human operator's comprehension? Further exploration revealed chambers filled with supplies, some of which were decades old, but showed little sign of decay. Rations, tools, and technical manuals remained remarkably preserved, as if periodically maintained. Certain sections of the tunnels appeared to have been reinforced after the original construction, suggesting ongoing activity that was never officially logged. Who was maintaining these sections, and for what purpose? The Arctic environment itself added a layer of paradox. Storms capable of crippling modern electronics seemed unable to disrupt the grid's operation. Magnetic anomalies interfered with standard instrumentation, yet the silo's own systems remained stable. Could the network have been engineered to interact with natural phenomena, harnessing environmental energy to sustain itself? Or was there a hidden power source still supplying electricity undetected for decades? As the team advanced deeper into the tunnels, they discovered areas that had been intentionally obscured in official schematics. Hidden chambers, reinforced doors, and secondary access points indicated a level of secrecy far beyond what the declassified records suggested. Inside, control panels displayed activity that could not be explained by routine maintenance. Machinery operating, readings fluctuating, lights blinking. The grid was alive, independent, and persistent, defying decades of official claims that it had been deactivated. The deeper question remained: if the Arctic defense grid could operate autonomously for decades, what does that imply about the original design? And if personnel were secretly maintaining it, why has there never been a record of such activity? The line between abandonment and continued operation blurred, leaving the impression of a system that had outlasted its creators. A network capable of functioning without oversight, yet always ready to respond. As the team prepared to examine the deepest chambers, the heart of the silos, a final anomaly emerged. Power readings spiked without explanation. Doors inside the inner chambers shifted slightly, and low-frequency hums grew more pronounced. The network was responding to their presence, yet no visible mechanism existed to trigger it. Whatever was running the Arctic grid, it was aware of intrusions, and it had been waiting, quietly, patiently, for decades. The next part will take the exploration into the heart of the grid itself. Investigators will encounter the inner chambers, the machinery still operational, and recovered logs that reveal the first real evidence of the grid's ongoing activities. As they descend, questions multiply. What remains hidden beneath the ice? And could this network designed during the Cold War still possess the capability to act on its original purpose? Without human intervention? Deep beneath the Arctic ice, The heart of the Alaska defense grid reveals itself as something far beyond what anyone imagined. The tunnels expand into chambers lined with machinery that hums faintly, panels flickering as if powered by some unseen hand. Dust and snow have settled in places, yet the systems remain operational, almost as if the grid is aware of intrusions. Every switch, every meter, every faint light is a paradox, officially abandoned, yet unmistakably alive. Recovered recordings from engineers and radar technicians provide chilling insight. Audio logs capture ambient noises, footsteps, distant hissing of machinery, and occasional bursts of static interspersed with fragments of voices. In one recording, a technician whispers, "It's running." Even after all this time, I don't know who's monitoring or what is still moving in here. The unsettling reality emerges. These facilities are operating in ways that defy conventional understanding. How could systems designed in the 1970s maintain activity without regular human oversight? Anomalies extend to environmental phenomena as well. Electromagnetic fluctuations, magnetic distortions, and inexplicable heat sources challenge the understanding of both nature and engineering. Equipment that should have failed years ago remains operational, sometimes responding to the presence of intruders. Thermal cameras detect movement that no one can explain, shadows that seem to move independently of personnel. The Arctic itself seems to amplify the paradox, providing conditions that allow the grid to persist in a way no other region could. Documents recovered from hidden chambers offer further puzzles. Schedules, logs, and schematics indicate maintenance and testing that could not have been conducted by any known teams. Some entries reference monitoring protocols for silos that were decommissioned years earlier. Others hint at undisclosed communication relays, suggesting a wider network extending beyond the Arctic. Who maintained these systems and why have they remained so perfectly hidden? Footprints, impressions in snow, and signs of activity indicate that parts of the tunnels were accessed in recent years. Tools neatly placed, floors swept, and doors slightly ajar suggest a level of care inconsistent with abandonment. Could a secret group still be monitoring these silos? Or is there some form of automated maintenance that has endured decades of neglect, independent of human operators? The evidence points to both possibilities simultaneously, leaving an unsettling ambiguity. Signals captured within the grid are equally mysterious. Shortwave bursts, coded sequences, and intermittent transmissions appear to originate from within the silos themselves. Analysts who examine the logs find repeated patterns resembling both human and automated communication. Some messages seem to anticipate events before they happen, a feature impossible by normal standards. Could these signals be a remnant of Cold War contingency planning? Or are they evidence of a system that evolved beyond its original programming? In one recovered log, a technician noted, "The system reacts to our presence. It knows we are here, but we cannot locate the source. It continues regardless of commands or shutdown attempts." The chilling implication is clear. The grid is aware in a way that surpasses its initial design. A persistent network capable of autonomous action. Every anomaly, from operational silos to active tunnels, points to a larger truth. The Arctic defense grid was built not to fail, and it has succeeded beyond expectation. Even after decades, these facilities still retain the capability to monitor, track, and possibly respond to threats. Equipment designed to anticipate nuclear escalation remains calibrated, and silos still report operational status. The Arctic's extreme environment seems to reinforce the system rather than degrade it. Could the original designers have envisioned a network so robust that it would outlast human memory? And if so, what does that mean for a region that was once considered a front line of global warfare? Personnel reports describe an overwhelming sensation upon entering the chambers. Cold metal, the faint smell of machinery, and the persistent hum create an atmosphere of both awe and dread. Engineers recount seeing panels cycle through codes in real time, systems powering up with no human interaction. A network built for war has survived peace, isolation, and abandonment, functioning as if no one ever left. Evidence suggests that some silos contain chambers entirely untouched since the Cold War, with supplies, technical manuals, and mechanical components still operational. Thermal readings indicate subtle variations in energy output, hinting at systems still running undetected. Could these chambers be the key to understanding the grid's ongoing activity? And if so, what secrets remain locked beneath the ice, hidden from every official record? The human element amplifies the mystery. Whistleblowers and former operators report sensations of being watched, subtle sounds in empty corridors, and machinery reacting in anticipation of human presence. Logs and recovered audio reinforce these accounts, describing unexplained movements, signals, and responses. The Arctic grid is not just a relic, it is a living system, a network capable of operating beyond the control of those who built it. And yet, the most unsettling questions remain unanswered. Who, if anyone, maintains oversight? How much of the network is automated, and how much is actively managed in secret? And perhaps the most pressing paradox of all, if these silos and tunnels are still capable of action, could the Cold War never have truly ended in this remote corner of the world? The answers may never be fully revealed, yet the evidence paints a picture of a system designed to endure, anticipate, and function long after its creators walked away. In the end, the Arctic Defense Grid stands as both a testament to Cold War ingenuity and a reminder of the mysteries that survive beneath ice and secrecy. The tunnels, silos, and radar stations are more than abandoned relics. They are a network that continues to operate in silence, a paradox of human engineering that blurs the line between history and the present. Observers may study, theorize, and speculate, but the truth remains hidden beneath layers of ice, steel, and decades of unanswered questions.